So part of chapter 15 talks about different ways to organize your persuasive speech. So we're going to touch on some of the ways you can organize your speech and helpful patterns to help get your point across. So the first kind of organizer is a problem, cause, solution. So persuasive presentations are based on questions of policy or questions of fact, maybe best organized in a problem, cause, solution. So this organizer is exactly how it sounds. You start off with a problem, identify what causes that problem, and then offer a solution to your audience. And if you first explain the problem and the cause, and then finish with your solution, it's proven that the audience will be more likely to comply with your request. So an example of this, I'm going to start with the topic of global warming. We know the purpose of the speech is going to be persuasion. So my specific purpose is to persuade the audience that the government must increase their efforts to counteract global warming. My central idea is the effects of global warming are catastrophic, but by understanding what is causing the problem, it can help the government solve the issue. So then we go down into what our main points are. So if we think of this as our outline for the speech, you have your three main points, but then you're going to have the research underneath each of those points to back up your claim. So my first main point is scientists agree that global warming of the Earth's atmosphere will lead to devastation on the environment. That right there is the problem. So that is what the whole problem of my speech is. Under that, I would give support that explains why this is a problem, how we got there. And then number two are going to be the several factors responsible for causing global warming. So you give your data of what is that cause. And then your third and final point is your solution. So government policies aimed at industries and individuals can mitigate the impacts of global warming. So that is an example of organizing your speech as a problem, cause, solutions. Why do we use organizers? Well, it's really simple, to organize our speech so that others can understand our thought process and get back behind your argument. Our next organizer that the book talks about is Monroe's motivated sequence. So in 1935, Alan Monroe developed a 5-step for persuading an audience to take some course of action. And those steps are attention, need, satisfaction, visualization, and action. So this is kind of set up as how you would kind of set up your outline for your speech. You're going to start with making the members aware of the problem and why the problem matters to them. When we're talking about persuasive speeches, it's really important to be able to answer the why this matters and how this impacts me. If people don't really feel connected to what you're talking about or feel like it impacts them, they usually stop listening because they aren't interested. The second step is need. So after introducing the topic, the next step is to elaborate on the need to address the particular topic. Satisfaction. Next in the sequence, you want to introduce a proposed solution to the problem. Visualization. The next step lets you go beyond the proposed solution. So our last organization kind of stopped right there when you gave the proposed solution. This goes a step farther. So with visualization, you want to show the members of your audience all the positive outcomes of adapting the stated proposal. So if we go back to that global warming issue, and we ended with the government needs to take more action in order to help, that'll solve the problem. The next step would be when the government does this, our air quality is going to be so much better. The oceans are going to be less polluted, X, Y, and Z, add all that stuff. So it's going a step farther and showing people how wonderful it can be if we solve these problems. The last step is action, to directly ask the members of your audience to act on your proposal. This is always important with persuasive, no matter what organizer you use, because I want you to always ask yourself, what do you want your audience to do? For global warming, maybe you're actually asking them to start recycling more or to stop using single-use plastic. Maybe you want them to carpool to work so they don't emit as much gas. Whatever it is, you need to share what your action is, what you directly want them to act on your proposal. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about strategies that you can use in your speech to help persuade your audience. And even though we're talking about speeches right now, persuasion is way more than speeches. It could be, every day we use the art of persuasion to help people believe in our ideas and get them on board with you. So, I forgot to change this little header up there, but these basically are the 5 strategies to persuasion. So, first one is sufficiency of evidence. You want to make sure you're providing enough evidence that supports your argument so that most people could consider your position. Excuse me. Step number 2 would be to suspend judgment. A lot of times, if we have an open mind, we can, really understand where a person's coming from. So ask your audience to suspend their judgment until after you present your argument, and then they can make their own judgment on the subject. Number 3, demonstrate cost benefits. Your audience is going to be more likely to comply with your request if costs are low and the benefits are high. Now, when we talk about costs, this doesn't necessarily mean monetary values, but if there's something easy that they can do and their payoff is big with that, they're more likely to do it. Number 4, micro changes. You want to encourage your audience to start small. If you give them this really big action task that you want them to do, a lot of times, just with everything, they'll be overwhelmed and they won't follow through. So, for example, if we want to encourage people to vote for a certain candidate on election day, that could be a big request. Let's start with encourage your audience to go online to this website and register themselves to vote. Start small and work your way up. And number 5 is social judgment theory. So this theory is basically accepting that it's easier to make changes if you show that your point and your objection is close to their belief. So again, this is kind of like making small changes, but if you can persuade them that your ideology is very similar to mine, and here's why, it can really help them follow your argument a little better. All right, and that is all I have for